Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Great Mothers for Noobs. This is a really strong team. It's coming up on acceleration for all players to be able to farm double shards on all these characters soon. It's just such a strong team with no legendaries. We got Death Trooper, Peridea, Night Trooper, super value for that Peridea Patrol Assault battle. Just one other character to make it work. And it's going to be good in 5v5, 3v3 JC, and TW. So it's a really, really strong team. When it came out with this Datacron, it was just overpowered, but right now it's just very solid. So we're going to be talking about the abilities, Zeta Order, Relic Order for the team, Omicrons. We're going to look at my mods and then look at GG's mods, talk about who they are used to beat and what beats them, and then a little demonstration. So let's get into it. It is a very complicated set of kits, so it might take a while. And just to sum up ahead of time, there's a lot of protection, health recovery. There's a lot of doomed and make it really easy to kill whoever has doomed. There's a lot of stealth, a lot of foresight, a lot of damage, and a lot of little turn meter manipulation. So a lot of little things going on all the time. It's really hard to keep up with, so don't worry if you're falling behind. All right, let's get into it. So starting with Great Mothers herself, I think her kit is actually a lot easier to understand and get a grip on than the Peridea pals, Night Trooper and Death Trooper Peridea. Let's look at the leadership. This is mostly about, without the Omicron, mostly about the granted abilities, debuffs, and buffs that she has. Aside from those things, Nightsister allies gain 30% defense, max health, and 30 speed if all allies are Nightsister at the start of the battle. At the start of each encounter and the end of each turn, if there are no enemies inflicted with Doom, Great Mothers removes ability block from themselves and gets the ability Fate Weaving. So this is to inflict Doomed. At the end of every turn, or the beginning of every turn, they're going to do a check to see if someone has Doomed. If they don't, they get to take a turn and inflict it. If the enemy leader's light side, dispel stealth and ignore taunt effects, so you can do it on anybody. However, typically, unless there's one key character you think you can kill fast, and it's important to ensure that they're going to die first, I think it is good to target the tank, especially in PvE. You get rid of the tank and then you can move on from there against anybody. Now, if all allies are Nightsister at the start of the battle, at the end of each turn, if no one has Blessed, she gets Gift of Shadows. She makes sure that someone is blessed. Doomed enemies can always be targeted by blessed allies and Great Mothers. So whoever you doom, you can ignore taunt to doom them, but you can't ignore taunt with everybody, just her and whoever's blessed. So a decision on who to give blessed to is something that is of strategic value. If you give it to Morgan, she can do a mass assist right away, maybe take out one person, but if you give it to an attacker, they're always going to be able to attack who's doomed. So choose wisely. So Fate Weaving inflicts Doomed. What Doom does, protection is disabled, which on its own is huge. They can't stealth, so there's nowhere to go. They lose 20% max health whenever the character ends their turn until the end of the encounter. So every turn, their total health pool is shrinking. This is why you see in the special mission on Dathomir, if you put Doomed on Maul and he does all his bonus turns, his health bar just shrinks. That's a great visual demonstration of what's happening with Doomed. But if they're a really slow character like General Kenobi a lot of times, it's not going to do anything so fast. The Gift of Shadows is just the ability that gives Blessed. Blessed is 20% max health and offense, immune to instant defeat effects. That's why if Great Mother's blessed Morgan and you're using JMK or something, she typically doesn't bless Morgan right away. Or no, she does typically bless Morgan. That's why you can't usually insta-kill her. You want to insta-kill Great Mothers, but that doesn't work in TW or the Omicron, which we'll talk about. They're immune to stun and turn meter reduction, and then when another Nightsister ally uses a special, they assist. Doing 40% less damage. So that is a good argument to give it to an attacker, either Nightsister Spirit or one of the Peridea pals, which we'll talk about. Her unique Nightsister allies gain 30% accuracy, max health, and tenacity, but can't be revived. This effect persists through defeat. So the only revive that's going to work is Zombie. If you have Merrin on the team or Daka, they're not going to revive. So Daka is a complete waste. Merrin has some other merits, but yeah, no revives. By the way, I don't know if I read it or mentioned it, but the Doomed happens at the very beginning of the battle. It's kind of like Han or Watt. They get a bonus turn right away, doom someone, and you're off to the races. At the start of each encounter, whenever an attacker Nightsister ally or Great Mothers is crit, so think her, Peridea pals, Usually most of the team except Morgan Elsbeth. Attacker Nightsister allies gain Foresight and Stealth for 1 turn. So that's why all the damage dealers are always getting Stealth. It's like constant, and Foresight is pretty constant. Whenever an enemy is critically hit, Great Mothers and Blessed Allies gain 1% offense for 2 turns, recover 2% protection, doubled if the enemy had vulnerable. So this is one of many little protection recovery mechanics on the whole team. The offense is easy to miss, but you see the protection. Vulnerable makes it happen more often. And there's a couple ways to inflict vulnerable on the team, which we'll show. Whenever a vulnerable enemy starts their turn, all Nightsister allies gain Foresight for 2 turns, and all non-tank Nightsister allies gain Stealth for 1 turn. So that would include Great Mothers themselves, pretty much everyone except Morgan Elsbeth. Whenever a doomed enemy gains turn meter, Blessed allies gain 25% turn meter, limit once per turn. So a lot of little turn meter, a lot of protection recovery on the turn. So a lot of the turns are taken with her, you're just using granted abilities, Inflicting Doom, granting Blessed, but on her turn, if you do get to a normal turn, or whenever you finally get to a normal turn, rather I should say, her special is Magic Storm. If the enemy leader is light side, it's a dispel on all Nightsister allies, but even if, whatever the case on the enemy, you dispel all buffs from all enemies. Doomed enemies are inflicted with vulnerable, so that's one way you get it. Deal special damage to all enemies 3 times. If it defeats an enemy, Nightsister allies gain defense penetration off for 3 turns. So very powerful, both a full dispel of buffs on the enemy, and if it's a light side enemy, full cleanse on your team. Extremely good ability for how short the text is, so pretty much spam it whenever it's there. Like, just spam it. You're going to get through so many bonus turns with her. You almost always get to do Magic Storm, unless you have the enemy team down to like 1 enemy that's taken a while to kill, then you're going to start in the basic, which deals special damage to 1 target enemy. If they're doomed, inflict tenacity down, and they lose 20% max health. So this is adding on to the doomed effect, accelerating the reduction of their max health, except for Galactic Legends, until the end of the encounter, which can't be evaded or resisted. Otherwise, inflict ability block and speed down for 2 turns, which is also pretty good. Blessed allies gain Foresight for 2 turns, and non-tank Blessed allies gain Stealth for 1 turn. So again, Foresight and Stealth all over the place. I think I forgot to just mention what the Doom mechanic does to Galactic Legends. And this is important for you if you're using them on offense. Also nice if you're facing them. Or if you are attacking them, it's nice if they put it on your GL. Because all it does is minus 5% defense. This kind of kills me, like the discrepancy. It's crazy good and powerful against normal characters. Against Galactic Legends, it is just embarrassingly weak. Does pretty much nothing. And then we got a large character, which just means she sits in the back, kind of like Java. And that's Great Mother. So that's the start of all the Foresight and Stealth. And now let's move on to Morgan Elsbeth, who is without a doubt the second character on the team. So 3v3, mandatory, Great Mothers, and Morgan. The third is kind of up to you. There's a bunch of choices, but she is mandatory as the tank. Really strong. Only has 1 unique, but it's kind of funny how they decide whether to make 1 unique or 2 uniques, because this unique could basically be 2 uniques. I am thankful that it's just one for the sake of 1 Zeta, though. So this is with the Zeta. I'll read it without the Zeta. First, at the start of the battle, all Nightsister allies gain 10% crit chance, defense, max health, and then 30% tenacity and 50% max protection. So huge protection boost. Whenever another Nightsister ally stealths, they get 15% crit damage for 1 turn. So all those stealths is kind of a stacking buff, even though it's not visual. Any instance of stacking, they're going to get 15% crit damage. So they can really stack up their crit damage over time, the attacker allies. Morgan taunts for 2 turns, and Nightsister allies recover 25% health. And with that, there's a lot of little offense up mechanics. Like with Great Mothers, we saw that 1% offense up mechanic, and that stacks, we'll get the crit damage. So lots of little things. Whenever Nightsister ally gains Foresight, they gain 20% offense for 1 turn, and Nightsister allies recover 25% protection. So see, even more offense and even more protection recovery. They're all over the place. This is like 8 clauses. It's so long. Whenever a Nightsister ally crits an enemy, they're inflicted with defense down for 1 turn. So another thing increasing your damage. Debuff on the other side. That's critically hitting them, not you being critically hit. There's a lot of different triggers, and it's really hard to keep track of. I can't really do it myself. I just know the damage is going up. The first time each other Nightsister ally falls below 20% health, they gain Foresight and Stealth for 2 turns. See, again, Foresight and Stealth. Gains 20% defense. Morgan gains 20% defense till the end of the encounter. And that ally that fell below 20% health recovers 30% health and protection and gains 30% turn meter. So this is kind of going into why, if you're facing Great Mothers, it's important to get healing immunity and then go for, if you can, Great Mothers first. Otherwise, go for Morgan first if you can prevent healing on her, because she's just going to heal everyone so much, you're not going to really be able to get to them and kill them in time, in most cases. Whenever Morgan is defeated, inflict all enemies with health down for 2 turns, which can't be dispelled, evaded, or resisted. All Nightsister allies recover 100% health and protection and gain 5% crit avoidance and defense, plus an additional 10% crit avoidance and defense per relic amplifier level Morgan had till the end of the encounter. So if she's relic 7, that's going to be 75% crit avoidance. If she's relic 9, it should be 95% crit avoidance and defense. So big bonuses, and just another reason you shouldn't really go for other people until Morgan's dead. She's just going to heal all of them up at the end anyway, unless they feel immunity. Defeated allies can't be revived. This persists through defeat. So this is not a reviving Nightsister team. It's all about Morgan. You can't really use her with Mother Talzin effectively. Just, yeah, no revives, except zombie. Her special, this has the... Or, no, I should go over the Zeta here on this. So, whenever Morgan taunts, all Nightsister allies recover 20% health and protection. As part of that ever-present health and protection recovery. Gain 15% offense until she loses taunt. So yet again, another piece of offense generation. Whenever she loses taunt, she recovers 5% health and protection and gains 10% turn meter. So lots of little turn meter gains and lots of extra damage all over the place. Just adding it for the team. Makes them hit like nukes. Now the special. This does have an Omicron I'll talk about in a later segment in the video. So deal physical damage to target enemy, blind them for 1 turn, inflict them with armor share for the rest of the encounter, call all the other Nightsister allies to assist. If it defeats an enemy, blind all enemies for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted. So it's a very good opening play. In addition to all those offense boosts you get over time, you put armor share on someone, makes it pretty easy to kill them. My loyalty, my life. This is a buff dispel on all enemies, so you have 2 on the team between her and Great Mothers. All Nightsister allies recover half health and protection, gain defense penetration for 2 turns, even more damage. In a different area too. We've seen so far a lot of crit damage in offense, add defense penetration to the mix. If Morgan is taunting, all Nightsister allies gain 20% turn meter and tenacity up for 2 turns, and she's typically taunting. So another little turn meter gain. The basic, deal physical damage to target enemy, Morgan gets defense up and protection up 50% for 1 turn. That's on her turn or assisting. If target enemy is inflicted with defense down, weakest other non-tank Nightsister allies stealths for 1 turn, so one of your attackers, or the Great Mothers themselves. If Morgan's taunting, inflict target enemy with vulnerable for 1 turn. So another way to get vulnerable and trigger those effects from Great Mother's kit. So in short, a lot of offense generation for her allies, a lot of protection for allies, recovery, just a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff is baked into her kit. But if they don't have an attacker, they're not going to be making use of all that offense. So now we got Night Trooper, who has a pretty bloated kit as well for an attacker. I'm going to start with the basic and special and then go to the uniques, because we need to understand Blight and Alert first. So deal physical, this is the basic, deal physical damage to target enemy, inflict Night Trooper with a stack of Blight. So Night Trooper is giving Blight to herself, I don't know, him, her, that's a sister, to themselves, and inflicting it on enemies in some cases. Blight is minus 100% health steal, so only healing through abilities. This character takes bonus true damage whenever they lose turn meter from an enemy. Can't be evaded, can't defeat them. Remove all stacks of Blight when they recover to full health. And the Blight is undispellable otherwise. If this attack scores a critical hit with a basic, inflict healing immunity for 1 turn. If Night Trooper has Blight at the start of the attack, inflict speed down on target enemy for 1 turn, can't be resisted, and remove 10% turn meter. So like I said, lots of little turn meter manipulations that you might not necessarily notice. The special, where we get Alert. Deal physical damage to all enemies, and Night Trooper gets Alert for 2 turns, which is unique and can't be copied. Alert is them assisting, basically, when anyone does any special. Whenever an ally gets bonus turn meter while not at full turn meter, they gain 10% turn meter. That's another part of it. But mainly, what's noticeable, the character assists, like I said, whenever anyone uses special. The enemy with the least turn meter is stunned and inflicted with vulnerable for 1 turn, and remove 5% turn meter from all enemies. See? Lots of little bits that you're not going to notice. You're not going to know what's going on. Just tons of little reductions, manipulations, and turn meter. Lots of healing all over the place, and lots of extra damage, which is why I get frustrated facing them so often. Call target other ally to assist. Typically, I will call Death Trooper Peridea. Second special. A lot shorter. I like that. Deal physical damage. Inflict target enemy with stack of blight until the end of the encounter. For each stack of blight on Night Trooper, so max 10. So he's passing off the blight on him to the enemy. Then remove 100% turn meter from target enemy. All enemies are inflicted with crit chance down for 2 turns. So there is a bit of an argument for potency. I don't run with that, but you know, there's a lot of things with the removing turn meter, the debuffs, and all that. The unique. So we're going to read it without the Omicron. We'll come back to the Omicron. Night Trooper has plus 35% potency. So nice. You don't need to mod for potency necessarily. She already has it. I'm saying he and she and they. I'm all over the place. I don't know what this is. This Night Trooper is. Whenever Night Trooper is damaged, they gain 10% off. I guess I'll go with that. They gain 10% offense stacking. So even more little stacks. And 5 speed, max 100. So this does not cap. It doesn't seem like it. So if you're going to start going for Night Trooper, you should probably make sure you actually kill them. Otherwise, they're going to hit really hard and add up with all the extra damage boosts from Morrigan and Great Mothers. And 5 speed for 1 turn until they are critically hit. I guess you crit it and it takes it away. Whenever an enemy recovers health, Night Trooper recovers 100% health. Enemies can't recover health from Health Steal when targeting Night Trooper. At the start of their turn, they gain 10% crit damage and defense penetration per stack of blight on them. When Night Trooper reaches 5 stacks of blight, they get frenzy for 2 turns. So the blight's playing into a lot of things. We got all the offense boosts we've talked about. Crit damage, defense penetration, and offense. Those are the big 3 of dealing damage. Get all 3 of them, and that's when you start to see those huge amounts of damage inflicted by Night Trooper here and there. So a lot of damage, a lot of little manipulations there. Oh, before I move on to Death Trooper Peridea, I'm doing a bad job of acknowledging what the Zetas are in some of these characters. The Zetas for Night Trooper are March to the Undying and Inevitable End. The Zeta part is the enemy with the least turn meter is stunned and inflicted with a vulnerable for 1 turn and remove 5% turn meter for all other enemies. And then for the unique, it is at the start of a turn that they get the 10% crit damage, defense penetration per stack of blight on them, and when they reach 5 stacks of blight, they gain frenzy. So nothing to be overlooked. And just to go back and look at Great Mothers, their Zetas are actually on the special, the special and the basic. Dispel all buffs. That's part of the Zeta. Doomed enemies are inflicted with vulnerable, and on the basic, it's the extra clauses for when it's a doomed enemy. And otherwise ability block and speed down. So yeah, sorry about doing a bad job on those Zetas. Now we move on to Death Trooper Peridea. So I'm going to start with the unique this time. The unique actually does not have a Zeta or Omicron or anything. It's just an Omega. So we're going to look at the whole thing. Death Trooper Peridea gains 25 speed, just flat. Imperial Remnant allies get 35% crit chance and offense. The Nightsister allies have plus 35% max health and max protection. Very significant boosts for no Zeta. If the ally in the leader slot is not an Imperial Remnant tank, so basically not Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, whenever an Imperial Remnant ally is dazed, shocked, or stunned, inflicted with speed down, all Imperial Remnant allies gain 15 speed, max 60 for the rest of the battle. So in the context of this team, that's only going to apply to Death Trooper Peridea and Night Trooper. Whenever an Imperial Remnant ally is crit, remove 3% turn meter from all enemies. See, lots of little manipulations. Death Trooper Peridea gains 5% turn meter for each stack of blight inflicted on an enemy. So this is what I gained from studying the kits. Just lots of manipulations you're not going to notice unless you're diving into the kit. And honestly, even a few days after doing this review myself, I'm not going to know where the changes are coming from. I'm just going to know there's a lot of turn meter manipulation. So the basic. Deal physical damage to target enemy with a 40% chance to inflict a stack of blight. If the target enemy already had Blight, the deck does double damage. If it scores a crit, all Imperial Remnant allies gain 50% offense up. Otherwise, Peridea gains crit chance up for 1 turn. And then there's some other claws that activate with the Omicron, so I'm not going to talk about that until I talk about the Omicron segments. But this is actually the Zeta here. So without the Zeta, deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict Blight, which can't be dispelled until the end of the encounter, or they recover full health, just like Blight normally. If the target already had Blight, also get 2 stacks of damage over time for 2 turns. So that's not that impressive. Once you add the Zeta, it adds the clause. If the target enemy had Blight, remove 5% turn meter from them 3 times. Another tiny little stacking turn meter manipulation. If this ability takes an enemy below 10% health, instantly defeat them. The most sneaky insta-kill in the game, I'd say. Excluding GLs, obviously. If it defeats them, Peridea takes a bonus turn. The cooldown of the ability is reset. So if you see a line of enemies, and usually it might be like PvE this happens, if they're all low on health, you can just keep going down the line, headbutting them with this, and they're going to die, and Peridea's going to get more turns. Necrotic Tissue. My gosh, the long clauses. Deal physical damage to all enemies, inflict offense down. You only got 1 Zeta, right? Yeah, just the 1. So no Zeta here. Inflict offense down, tenacity down. If the leader is Imperial Remnant support, which it's not. If the target already had Blight, inflict Blight on a random enemy that doesn't already have it. All allies can offense up and speed up for 2 turns. So this is not a bad opener. I would usually recommend opening with this while you're using Great Mother's team. And that's another Omicron clause. So yeah, that's just pretty a bit of an easier kit to understand the Night Trooper. Last of the standard team, but we're also going to talk a little bit about Merrin. We got a simple kit, Nightsister Spirit, because it's an old kit. At the end of her turn, and no Zetas. At the end of her turn, at the start of each encounter, she gains Foresight. While having Foresight, has plus 100% offense and attacks ignore armor. So that's typically going to be, that condition's typically going to be met because there's Foresight all over the place. The special, just a buff, dispel, and a stun. And the basic, physical damage, speed down, and removes 20% turn meter. Gain turn meter equal to the amount removed. So this is on their turn, not on their turn. So if they're assisting, one reason why it's compelling to give, potentially to give her blessed, is she's going to be assisting a lot and gaining the turn meter, and just going to keep doing those turns and ignoring armor. So yeah, pretty good damage, pretty simple. I'm only going to talk briefly about Merrin. She is in a lot of teams, but she's not, exactly designed for the team. She has a lot to do with reviving. You can't revive on the team unless you're zombie. She doesn't get turn meter unless people are she gets the least amount of turn meter when she's on a team that doesn't have people dying all the time. So that's this one. She's only really getting turn meter when allies are inflicted with debuffs. If she has 0%, she gets 25%. If they have more than 0, she gets 10%. And other than that, she adds some cleansing and a lot of plague is mainly the thing. So the Shadow Strike usually is going to be a revive when you do it, but instead she does it. She stealths for a little bit, dispels all debuffs on herself, gains magic stealth, not just stealth. And when she loses it, she's going to cleanse. She would revive on another Nightsister team, but not on this one. And she's doing some plague, like I said, just plague here and there. And here's a stun. So yeah, I don't want to dive too much into Merrin, because kind of the standard team is with Spirit. But yeah, so sorry about that. I'm not even going to discuss her too much more in the other segments. The first time a Nightsister ally is defeated in the encounter, she gains 100% turn rate. That's going to happen once. And then when they're defeated or revived, she gains 15% turn meter. So she's getting, yeah, she's not super effective. In Grand Arenas, it's all about the defeated and revived. 100% turn meter when they're defeated or revived. So it's only going to be defeated because they're not going to be revived unless you have zombie on the team. And if you give the Omicron, she's going to inflict all enemies with 1 stack of plague for 3 turns. I wouldn't recommend her Omicron for this team, so I'm not going to really go into it in the Omicron priorities. But yeah, Merrin's just an option for the team, but a lot of her kit's really nullified. Now for the Zeta Order. This is something that's surprisingly great about the team. I think there's only one real mandatory Zeta. Everything else is just incremental. I think you absolutely should have to have Morgan's Zeta whenever she taunts all allies. Recover 20% health and protection, gain 50% offense. Whenever she loses taunt, she recovers. So she's going to taunt often. Her taunt clause is going to come up a lot, and that's a lot of healing. I think you don't have to have necessarily the others. I don't think Great Mother Zetas are that crazy good. Well, actually, no, they are. So this one, actually, I take it back. This one I think is pretty mandatory. And then after that, it's pretty optional. But the dispel buffs from all enemies and inflict vulnerable, that's going to do a lot for you. I think this basic is pretty skippable. If they're doomed, you know, reduce the max health. You don't necessarily need that. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's not mandatory. Night Troopers are nice, but not super mandatory. It's all about damage increase. This is the crit damage, defense penetration clause for blight, and then the frenzy, and then also the least turn meter enemies stunned and removing turn meter from all enemies. That's nice to have. In Peridea, this is kind of more situational. This I would really put on the back burner. It's conditional if they have blight, and then also if they're low on health. That's you could do like chain attacks basically. I think those are kind of delayable. So Morgan first, Great Mother special. Then the rest are kind of up to you, but they're not super pressing, and especially 3v3, you know, Morgan just a special here. And you can run Spirit if you're low on Zetas, because they don't have any Zetas, and it's just pretty nice Zeta-wise. As far as Relic Order, it's another way they're pretty nice. So I think Morgan is actually the first priority to get to Relics, because she's keeping the rest of the team alive. There's... You know, for a while on my main account, I had Great Mothers at Gear 11, 3 stars, and I was still able to beat a couple things like Gungans. You just load them up with protection if they're Gear 11. I think, obviously, Great Mothers will be second because they're the leader of the team. They should be everywhere. And then your attacker of choice. So if you're not trying to build up a whole 5v5 team at once, and you're not trying to have 2 3v3 teams with Enoch leading the Night Troopers, and then the Spirit with Morgan and Great Mothers, then I'd say, you know, just pick your poison. Whoever you think is better, Night Trooper, Peridea, or Spirit. I'd argue for Spirit because she's just easier to gear. No Chirotex. But if you're going for the Peridea Patrol, you know, it's going to be one of these two as your attacker. And then you follow suit after that. But yeah, Morgan is the easy first choice, followed by Great Mothers. Because if Great Mothers does die, it's going to be pretty rough. And all the protection, health recovery in the world isn't going to help if you're just way too squishy. So that is the Relic Order. Now for Omicrons. There are 2 Grand Arena Omicrons on the team, Morgan and Night Trooper, and then 3 TW Omicrons, 1 on Death Trooper Peridea, 2 on Great Mothers. So the GAC Omicrons are not mandatory. They're just kind of sweeten the pot. So Morgan and Elsbeth, I'd say go for first out of the 2 for GAC. Stagger target enemy for 2 turns. This is on the Mass Assist. Expose all enemies and inflict them with buff immunity for 2 turns. If target enemy is inflicted with defense down, Nightsister allies gain an additional 5% damage. In the cooldown of their... I don't know why I said it like that. Cooldown of their abilities is decreased by 1. All Nightsister allies gain Frenzy for 1 turn. Protection for 2 turns. So you're going to be going crazy with all the frenzy. So it's very nice. I actually just recently applied it. I didn't realize I didn't have it, which is kind of funny. And then Night Trooper. This one is less compelling because it's mostly for being under Enoch, which, you know, 3v3 matters, but doesn't matter for this team. While in Grand Arenas, Night Trooper has plus 100% max health, at 35 speed, and they're immune to turn meter reduction. And for this team, that's it. The rest of it is just for Imperial Remnant leader. Between the 2, I'll go for Morgan first because you're going to be using her with Great Mothers 3v3 and 5v5. And Night Trooper, yeah, it's nice to have. I don't think it would be super pressing. Like, there's probably a lot of others you could go for. And then for TW, probably the best one is going to be Great Mother's lead ability. Nightsister allies gain 30% defense, max health, and 20 speed. Great Mothers gain instant defeat immunity while a blessed ally is active. That's just a middle finger to JMK, just like a lot of newer kits. Doomed enemies have minus 30% offense and defense, and whenever a doomed enemy is defeated, which happens pretty easily, all enemies are inflicted with fear for 1 turn. Very strong in a lot of ways. Shuts off some counters entirely and really punishes doomed people even more. For the unique, whenever a vulnerable enemy is critically hit, all Great Mothers and Blessed Allies gain 5% turn meter. Huh. Another little turn meter game. The first time any other Nightsister ally is reduced to 1% health is kind of like a savior mechanic. This can happen once per battle. So only for one ally, just like Savior. Dispel all debuffs on themselves. They get blessed for 2 turns if they didn't have it. Damage immunity for 1 turn. Recover all their health and protection. Have their cooldowns reset. And then when they're defeated, when blessed is removed. But it can't be dispelled. So I don't know how it would be removed otherwise. If they were already blessed, they get 200% health steal and 20% defense and offense. So just mainly a savior mechanic. And then some turn meter train for hitting vulnerable enemies. Zeta Order, it's kind of like a siphon deal, and it affects the basic and the other special. So in TW, they're going to siphon crit damage from target enemies. So kind of a unique siphon mechanic, like Afro siphons potency. Peridea siphons crit damage. Can't be resisted, and then the ability that bonus turn insta-kill threshold goes to 20%. If the target enemy had Blight, you do an armor shred for the rest of the battle, and then the other 2 gain effects. For the basic, you gain 5 stacks of Siphon. For the AoE, if they have the Omicron, they deal additional damage equal to 40% of the crit damage, and that's just for Enoch. So yeah, just a lot of extra damage through siphoning. It's a complex way of getting more damage. I would definitely go, I mean, if you're focused on TW, the lead for Great Mothers, the unique for Great Mothers, and then Peridea. Probably skip Peridea. I mean, it's just extra damage. So, like, it's not going to be a super game changer. But yeah, that's Omicrons. There's quite a bit of them. I'm a GAC guy, so, like, which means I'm a selfish person. So I go for Morgan and Night Trooper. I don't have the Great Mothers, but they are really good Omicrons. Now for the fun part, I think going over the kits is very taxing on my mind with all these complicated kits. I hope it made sense. Just the summary is kind of how it goes. They're going to get a lot of damage. They're going to manipulate your turn meter. They're going to recover your health and protection. Basically everything, and it's hard to keep up. But JMK is so good against them in GC because he's just done all that turn meter manipulation and has the insta-kill. So, yeah, that's why JMK is popular. So for my Great Mothers, we're going to look at my mods on the whole team first. I just have a lot of speed. I have some focus on health, and that's mainly it. There's a lot of things you could do. I think you could go for some damage, because she does do some good damage. But I go for the health with the survivability and then the speed. Although, honestly, you know, if you don't have a ton of speed, they're still going to take a ton of bonus turns anyway, so. Morgan, not so focused on speed. I have kind of an even focus on health and protection recovery because both are playing into things, and they're both pretty good health and protection pools. And I honestly think she is a good candidate for R9. I have mine at R7, but for kind of late endgame players, that's something to consider. Just health and defense mods. If she takes turns or not, you know, the first turn is the most important. Second one usually comes around by the time you need it. And otherwise, it's fine if she just sits there. Just by existing, she does the most for the team. Night Trooper, or Night Trooper, I have a good bit of speed, but I have offense and crit chance mods. Bring the crit chance up, and just basically a damage build. A Death Trooper, crit damage and crit chance. Although I don't necessarily, I could go either way. I think an offense build, crit damage build, just more damage. Same thing for Nightsister Spirit. I gave her offense instead of crit damage because you're not necessarily going to crit all the time. But honestly, I probably should have a crit damage triangle. I just have offense. Crit damage typically leads to the most damage overall. And I don't know why I have health here. I get some offense there. But not necessarily the best model of my mods. Now let's look at the player basis mods. Alright, the people's mods for Talzin. Just fair disclosure, this is only looking at the top 1,000 Kyber GAC players. And a lot of those players are in good TW guilds, so they're focused on TW2, so we'll just keep that in mind. The majority are doing the same thing I'm doing, speed and health. That is by 77%. Dominant majority. That's one of the most dominant majorities of set choice I've ever seen. Because there's always some flexibility, you know, like speed and tenacity or so on and so forth. High priority on speed on the arrow, health on the triangle, protection's the second, health high priority on the circle, and health primary on the cross. So I feel good that I am in alignment with the majority of the top end player base. Probably because I copied that when I unlocked her and finished her off. Surprisingly, this is the same that I have too, and it's just kind of health, defense, just a mixture. There's a lot of these different variations. There's all health, and one set of defense. It kind of depends on which mods you have good of and which ones you can spare. Like, I think defense is actually way better for survivability than health. So I would think all defense sets is really good too. But yeah, I don't think people usually prioritize farming a ton of defense sets, so I don't have them as good. And you have tons of health from all these events and stuff. Speed, 61%. Protection, 21%. I forget what I have. I didn't actually look at the arrow, but a lot of people are doing protection. Protection on the triangle. Health is a second. Protection dominant on the circle. And protection and tenacity, pretty even split on the cross with health coming up the rear there. And I kind of have both health and protection on mine. Night Trooper. Offense and potency. So yeah, I did reference that as probably an option. 31% majority compared to 16% have what I have. Crit chance. I don't know if I have enough potency mods that make sense for Night Trooper, but yeah, viable option. Speed dominant. Crit damage on the triangle pretty dominant. Offense distance second. Health priority on the circle. Offense dominant on the cross, and potency distance second. So people want to set, but they don't want to give up one of their primaries. And Death Trooper, this is what I have: crit damage, crit chance. I'm pretty sure I copied it within the past year because that's when I got. I by the time I get these new marquees up to relics and mod them, there's enough players, good players that have them, that I just copy it a lot of times. Yeah, 50%, 11% have crit damage and health, because at a certain point, crit chance mods are really diminishing returns. Dominant priority on the speed on the arrow. Crit damage dominant on the triangle. Health pretty dominant, and offense pretty dominant on the cross. So just damage sets. Offense and potency on spirit. I mean, yeah, potency, I can't really fault that. But it's a pretty, split bag. Only 23% for the for the most populous set combo, 19% for crit damage, crit chance, 13% for offense health. So just some kind of damage build. High priority for speed, but like that's a significant amount of people that are not going with speed. Crit damage dominant, that is the best for damage. I think I might have a shallow mod pool, so I didn't have enough for my spirit. Health, not a crazy majority, but the edge over protection on the circle, and then offense pretty dominant on the cross. So that is how the people are modding this team. So what do they beat? Looking at GAC insights, focusing on kyber, rhodium, and chromium. Pretty wide net, not all the way down to bronzium and carbonite, but looking at all divisions, they're not huge GL counters. They do have some luck against Ahsoka without Ezra. When you add Ezra in there, it's only 33% win rate. I am filtered only by the primary team that I first went over without Merrin. Gungans, 3/4 of the time, pretty good. Pretty good Zori counter. Good chance at Queen Amidala. I'm sure there's a variety of teams where they have a challenge like Echo. They're not going to do so hot. There's a lot of teams that you're not going to see as much. Tuscans, good against. Trench. Any kind of B team. It's really hard for a B tier team to beat Great Mothers. They're pretty much a catch-all there. They can beat Jabba, but this is like his weird smuggler comp that's not always happening. Like outside the norm, that weird smuggler comp, they're not having a good run against Jabba. What else is notable here? Treya not really doing well. Malgus not really doing well. Spoilers, or foreshadowing, not spoilers, foreshadowing for what counters them. Really good against Archer Moff Gideon. Any team that has like one that's not a GL, that has a big central character that you need to take out and prevent revives, they're gonna crush. Like Darcher Moff Gideon, they are hard counter there. They have trouble against Malgus because Malgus prevents all their turn meter and crits a lot of the time. Mirrors are actually pretty good. Queen Amidala, the trickiest thing is the decoy getting in the way and all the damage. Riva, not so good. JMK they can beat, but not so good. Pretty good against New Bad Batch. You know, a good variety of stuff. And as far as what counters them, I already kind of mentioned you need teams that can largely prevent all the turn meter gain, or at least mitigate it. That can take a lot of hits, whether it be preventing crits or a lot of survivability, stacking protection up. And healing immunity, preventing away for the constant healing. Insta kills and GAC help, not really as much in TW. So that's Malgus, Riva, JMK. Intreya is pretty good too. I mean, Supreme or Kylo just bulldozes, like, just bullies them. Lord Vader kind of is too. But what's so good about Malgus against Great Mothers, and also Darth Revan lead can win, it's just you're a little more squishy. Malgus has both Shock and Doubt abounding on the team, which prevents turn meter, both of them. Shock prevents healing on health. Doubt prevents healing on the protection, so that's really key in actually getting Morgan down. Once you get Morgan down, it's just open season. You can take out Great Mothers pretty easily, and then the rest. So Morgan is really central. Riva, healing immunity, AoE healing immunity, Death Mark, a lot of stuff to deal with things. You got a lot of bonus turns from Grand Inquisitor, and lots of like AoE strong damage. They're one of the only teams that can potentially take out the sides and attackers before getting through Tal's or Morgan Elsbeth, because you know the AoE from 5th and Riva, they all stack up pretty well, especially if you get the healing immunity from Riva. And surprisingly, Sidious, this is with a Sidious Crown this season. That's not normally a thing. JMK, pretty slam dunk against it. And we have Treya can take the hits because she just generates so much protection up and healing and all that. And she's not reliant on turn meter. They kind of punish you a little bit for getting turn meter, but she just, you know, takes it. And then you can get to that insta-kill with Nihilus. So, and you isolate Morgan, so that makes it pretty easy. Bo has some chance. It has a pretty good shot. JML, not so much. So yeah, those are the main things that beat them. And I'd say that's pretty consistent across seasons, regardless of Datacrons, unless it's a super focused on Great Mother's Datacron. However, beware of large defense sets. I will say that. And now for the fun part, we're going to do a demonstration. Right now, I'm in a Galactic Challenge that is set on Dathomir against sortie droids. I think it's a decent demonstration. I might look to see what's in Squad Arena, see if we can try anything there. But yeah, I like Galactic Challenges because there's no Datacrons. There's tons of other modifiers, but these are not scoundrels, so they're not getting any boosts. And I like that it's Dathomir because on Dathomir, as a modifier, there's all these revives. Once it goes down to 0, everyone revives, but we're going to prevent all those with Doom. So right now, she's going first before everybody. They only have turn meter from BB-8, giving turn meter to all of them. So we get the Doom there, then we get the Blessed. I'm going to put it on Night Trooper. I think, honestly, everyone's a viable option. So I'm just going to do this to dispel everything. But Night Trooper, we get to have assist. We can give him alert, and then he's going to assist a lot. So here's the opener with Death Trooper Peridea, because we're going to get something. Inflict a stack of blight. Oh, all allies gain offense up. Yeah, that's why. And speed up. So very nice. And we want the one that does alert. That's this first one. So we're going to be assisting from Blessed and Alert, which is kind of nice. They have an unpreventable revive with the, what's it called, the spare parts. Now let's see what Spirit can do. Oh my gosh, that animation's so slow. 117k. Let's see, 2 assists by Night Trooper, so that's a decent trade-off there. This should get a kill. Yep. And we just keep triggering the Doomed. It's not even fair. AoE. For some reason, I thought I was targeting here, but I couldn't because I didn't have Blessed with Death Trooper. So yeah, we're getting stuck behind this taunt with anyone that isn't Night Trooper right now. Some people like to place Blessed on Morgan to help her survive, and she's good with that. Mass Assist. And you have tons of options. No one is Doomed, and you know, I don't know what determines when that happens. Maybe she was the next one up to take a turn, so she did her little whirlwind vortex thing, but she didn't doom anyone. So let's just go for sortie. I mean, BB-8's close enough, so... Yep, dead. Oh yeah, we need to prevent revives, that's right. But sortie, you know, she's harder to kill, but she's going to reduce her health anytime she takes a turn. So we'll start to see the health bar go down more easily. Eventually, we got healing immunity. She's tanky, that's a lot of defense. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to try to look for Squad Arena 2 as an example. Here we are in Squad Arena. I'm going to see if I can take down a JMK. I have a chance. They have a tank revive, which is pretty easy to get around because I'm preventing revives, so that's pretty nice. I'm going to bless Morgan this time because they're going to do an insta-kill and they're going to have to target her. So just a lot of nuances if you are using them. It's easy to use them on just slap them on defense and make the other person worry about it, but we're going to try to play through a tricky one. This one is just some stats, so I don't want any mechanics messing things up, but yeah, this is the best stat card I have. I'm going to switch back to that team when I can. Just see some mods. 349 speed on Cat, pretty high health protection. 567 speed on JMK. GK is R8, kind of weird setup, but protection based. That'll make him easier to kill, honestly, because I disabled the protection. And Cam instead of either Gas or Padme, so kind of weird. I mean, let's give it our best. Going to Doom GK, and we're going to bless Morgan. Morgan. Yep, and they had nowhere to go. Well, they could have gone for Great Mother, so that was a mistake. But they went for Morgan. She was blessed. Too bad. Get speed up. Because what JMK is doing is he's shutting off all the turn meter gains we have. But we're mostly fine with that because we're still getting all this damage. Oh, almost. I think that was kind of like a little savior mechanic that triggered. And he didn't die right away, but then he didn't heal up at all, so... Okay, this could cook us. He put healing immunity on Great Mothers, and all they have to do is just get around Morgan's taunt. But killing Cat gets us a good part of the way there. Excellent. So yeah, I don't want to mark JMK. That's a waste. Yeah, Morgan is quite tanky. Alright, they got their ult, which is not great for us. Grey Mothers is the heart and soul of the team. Without her, we're going to fall apart. Even if we get almost everyone down. Yeah, let's just work our way around Cam. Yeah, see this damage is just crazy. Alright, yeah, we didn't disable the protection on the GL, but oh, perfect. She doesn't have healing immunity anymore. But it will be tough. It's tough to just get through the GL because the Doomed plays a huge role in our damage output. I'm just gonna put it on auto. Now that he doesn't have his purple protection up, we can crit him. And we are benefiting from lots of health and defense and crit avoidance. So keep that in mind. You do need some kind of boost, but this is a team that really benefits from any kind of general survivability boost and you know, offensive damage too. Just they have all the tools on their own. They don't need tons of mechanics. Just having stats is a big deal for them. So yeah, that's it. This is Great Mothers for Noobs. I hope this helps you understand. Even just going through it, studying it, really helped me understand a lot more. Long video, a lot to cover. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you for the next one.